Hello guys, today first thing we discuss about the question paper. Okay, we'll discuss the weekly test 5 question paper at first. So first question I have given that short answer type question. First question was what is inertia? Okay, in short, inertia is what? In short, you can say that the inability of an object or a body to change its state is called inertia. Okay, inability of a body to change its state. Okay, whether it is in rest or it may be in uniform motion. Okay, the inability of a body or object to change its state is called inertia. The state means it may be in rest or it may be in uniform motion. So next question was, you are asked to write down the mathematical form of Newton's second law. Okay, so Newton's second law is nothing but F is equal to dp by dt. Okay, or the k is proportionally constant, or k is 1. So you can write Newton's second law as F is equal to d by dt, where F is the external force and P is the momentum, and dp by dt denotes the rate of change of momentum. Okay, this. Next question is, you are asked to write down the statement of Newton's third law. It is simple that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. This is Newton's third law. And your next question is, you are asked that what is concurrent force? Concurrent force is nothing but if number of forces act on the same point. Okay, if a number of forces act on the same point, then they are called concurrent force. And why it is important? Because we have studied that equilibrium concurrent forces. Okay, we have studied equilibrium of concurrent forces, which is very essential to solve most of the problems related to force, friction, then circular motion, these type of things. Okay. Then what is the limiting value of static friction? This is nothing but the limiting value of static friction is F is equal to mu s into n, or it is the coefficient of static friction and it is the normal reaction. Okay. The next question was, you are asked to show that Newton's first law can be proved from Newton's second law. So this 2 1. So what is Newton's second law? F is equal to dp by dt. Okay, so and how we write p is the momentum. Okay, P is the momentum is equal to m into v. Okay, so we can write ddp of m v. Okay, m is constant, so you can put it you can take it out from the derivation, dt of v. So dv by dt, it is the nothing but acceleration. Okay, so see, we can write Newton's second law like this also. F is equal to ma. So F means F external. F means what? It's an external force. Net external force. Okay, so here if F is equal to 0, then what it will be? ma equal to 0. Mass cannot be 0. Okay, mass is specific for object, does not vary. Okay, upon this condition, so here a will be 0. Okay, so a is equal to 0 means what? A is equal to 0 means acceleration is 0. So it may suggest that whether the body may be in rest, whether the body is in rest A is equal to 0 means the body is in rest, or secondly it is in uniform motion. Uniform motion. Okay. So see, Newton's second law is F is equal to dv by dt, and you can write this into F is equal to mf1. So if F is the net external force. If F is equal to 0, then what you can say, acceleration on the body is 0. When acceleration is equal to 0 means the body may be in rest or it is in uniform motion. So from here, so in Newton, what is the Newton first law? Newton first law is that a body wants to continue its state of rest or its state of uniform motion. Okay, body wants to continue its state of rest or its state of uniform motion in the same direction until and unless an external force is applied on that body. So if we go from Newton's second law, what we get? If acceleration is 0, this means the body may be in rest or the body may be in uniform motion. Okay, so from here you can say that if external force on a body is 0, or there is no external force applied on a body, then the body may be in the body continue its state of rest or its state of uniform motion along the same straight line or in the same direction. Okay, so from Newton's second law we can go to Newton's first law. Okay, acceleration equal to 0 means that the body may be in rest or it may be in uniform motion. So acceleration 0 means net external force is 0. So this was the Newton's first law. If the external force applied on the body is 0, the body continue its state of rest or the state of uniform motion. Okay, so this is how we can conclude Newton's first law from starting from Newton's second law. Now next question was, you are asked to write down the types of friction. So there are 3 types of friction we have discussed: static, kinetic, and rolling friction. Okay, these are 3 types of questions. And what is kinetic friction? It is asked that if there is relative motion. Okay, if there is relative motion between two surfaces. Okay, between two surfaces. If there is relative motion between two surfaces, then kinetic friction arises. Okay. So next question was, a mass of 4 kg. Let's give on that. A mass of 4 kg is placed in a horizontal plane. Okay. And next question is that, so a mass of 4 kg is placed on a horizontal plane and is gradually inclined. Okay, up to certain angle theta. Okay, but theta is equal to certain angle theta is equal to 30 degree. And what happens at theta is 30 degree? The mass of 4 kg. Okay, this 4 kg mass starts sliding over the plane. Okay, so you are asked to show the coefficient. Okay, so you are asked to calculate the coefficient of static friction, that is mu s is equal to what in this case. Okay, so as I have discussed in that angle of repose. Okay, angle of repose. Okay, so what is angle of repose? So if you place an object in horizontal plane and so what is the angle of repose? Suppose an object is placed in horizontal plane, and if we start inclining the plane, okay, at certain angle the mass on this surface will start sliding, and the angle at which this mass starts sliding is called angle of repose. Okay, and we have get a relation that if angle of repose, we notice that then tangent of the angle of reverse is equal to coefficient of static friction. Okay, so here mu s will be how much? Equal to tan of 30 degree, because at tan of 30 degree this mass starts sliding over the surface. So this is the tangent of this angle will be the coefficient of static friction. So it is 1 by root 3. Okay, so this is the coefficient of static friction for this surface. Next question was that a cricket ball of mass 500 gram, okay, or you can say 0.5 kg, moving with speed of v is equal to how much? 36 kilometers per hour, or if you convert into meter per second, 36 60 into 60 into 1000, or 10 meter per second. Okay, so a cricket ball of mass 0.5 kg moving with 10 meter per second, and what happens is strike somewhere and reflect back with the same velocity. Is moving with 10 meter per second, okay, and strike somewhere and reflect back with the same velocity. Okay, so this is v1 and this is minus v2. See, when it return back after striking somewhere, it reflect back. Okay, when it reflect back, the velocity, magnitude of the velocity remains 10 meter per second, but the direction is opposite to v1, so we assign a minus sign here. Okay, so what is the velocity of this? What is the reflected velocity of this ball? Minus v1. Okay, it's minus v1. So you are asked to calculate impulse. Okay, impulse. You are asked to calculate the impulse. Okay. So impulse is nothing but change in momentum. Okay, we have to calculate the how much the momentum has changed. Okay, so we can write simply p1 minus p2. Okay, so what is the initial momentum? M into v1. Okay, M into v1. So it will be how much? M into 0.5 into v1 is 10. Okay, so this 5 kg meter per second. Okay, or 5 Newton into second. Okay, so initial momentum is 5. Okay, so what will be the final momentum? So see, in kind of final momentum, how do you do? Mass into velocity. Mass is 0.5 kg and velocity is minus v2. So minus v2 means minus 10 meter per second. Okay, so it will be 5 minus of minus 5. Okay, so as a and finally what we get? It will be plus 10 kg meter per second. Okay, or 10 Newton into second. So this is the impulse of this collision. Okay, 10 Newton per second. Now next question is discussed in the class also. This is a question from conservation of momentum. Okay, conservation of momentum means initial momentum is equal to final momentum for a system. Okay, for a system, if there is no external force applied on the is applied on the system, then initial momentum of the whole system is always equal to the final momentum. Okay, so the question was from this portion: a mass of 30 kg is flying. Suppose this is a mass of 30 kg. It's flying velocity. What velocity? 48 km per hour. 48 km per hour. Okay, or in meter per second, we can convert 48 into 1000 into 60 into 60. 80 by 6 meter per second. Okay, is moving with velocity 80 by 6 meter per second, and This is the initial condition. Okay, so initial velocity will be how much? Ei is equal to m into v. M is how much? 30 kg. M into v is 30 into 80 by 6. Okay, this is the initial velocity, kg meter per second. And how much it will be? So this was 80 into 5. 80 into 5 kg meter per second. This is the initial momentum of the system. And what is the final case? It is the initial case. Okay, initial case. What is the final case? What happens? This body of mass 30 get exploded into two parts. Okay, one part is 18 kg and another part is how much? 12 kg. Okay, and what happens? This 18 kg mass gets stopped. Okay, v1, suppose it is v1 is equal to 0. After explosion, this 18 kg mass gets stopped. Velocity of this 18 kg mass will be 0, and this 12 kg mass moves with a velocity v2. Okay, you are asked to calculate what is v2. Okay, so if we see the final case, what will be the final momentum? m1, that is 18 kg, m1 v1 plus m2 is 12 kg, m2 into v2. You are asked to calculate v2, and given that v1 is 0 because 18 kg mass gets stopped after explosion, so m1 v1 will be 0. So sorry, this p final will be how much? m v2. So we have p initial, which is 18 to 5 kg meter per second, and p final is m2 v2. So we have to just equate this. Okay, so now what we do? We go for the conservation of momentum condition. So p initial means t into 5, p final means m2 v2. Given that m2 is how much? m2 is 12 kg. So v2 will be 80 into 5 by m2, or 80 into 5 by 12. Okay, if you solve this, what we get? So it is 100 by 3 meter per second. Okay, or how much it will be? 33.33. okay, meter per second. Okay, this is the velocity of the mass m2, which is 12 kg after explosion. Now next question is, you are asked to prove the conservation of momentum. Okay, actually this is done in the class, so I am not going to prove it again. Okay, please see the class video again if you have not done this. So next question is, there is a body of mass 600 kg. Okay, there is a body of mass 600 kg. Okay, and a 490 Newton force is required to just start the mass slide over the surface. So 490 Newton of force is required to slide this body over the surface. For start the sliding, we need 490 Newton of force. Okay, we are asked to calculate the coefficient of static friction. Okay, what will be this? See, mass will be, weight mg will be acting downward, and there is a normal reaction. Okay, what are the force acting on this? Weight mg, the normal reaction, which is equal to mg actually. Okay, normal reaction and this force. So what is the coefficient of static friction? How we calculate this? It is nothing but F by N. Okay, so if you put the value 490 into N, means this magnitude is nothing but weight of the body, mg, or you can say mass is equal to 490 into 600 into g, means 10 meter per second square. G is acceleration due to gravity, which is 9.8 meter per second square, or you can write down 10 meter per second square approximately. So it will be 49 by 600. Okay, this is the coefficient of, if we solve this, we can get a value less than 1. Okay, so this is the coefficient of static friction of this body. So these are the questions. Okay, given in the ugly test 5. Now we go for the next topic. Now we go for the next topic, which is circular motion. Okay, now we go for the next part, circular motion. Okay, first we start this chapter with force. Okay, we study about force. Okay, there we get 3 laws of Newton. Okay, then we discuss about friction in the next part. Then last part of this chapter is circular motion. Okay, so what do you mean by circular motion? Okay, suppose a body is moving in a circular track. Okay, a body is moving in a circular track with uniform motion. Okay, suppose the radius of the circle is r. Suppose a body is moving in a circular motion with uniform velocity, then the body is said to be in a circular motion. So this is called circular motion. Okay, now when we discuss about circular motion, we have to go for the 2 terms. Okay, one is centrifugal force and second one is centripetal force. Okay, when we discuss about circular motion, we have to go for 2 terms, centrifugal force and centripetal force. Centrifugal is nothing but the away from center. Okay, center means this is the circular track. Okay, this body of mass is moving a circular track. Okay, so centrifugal means away from the center. Okay, this side. Okay, away from the center. And centripetal force means towards the center. Okay, this is means towards the center. Okay, centrifugal is away from the center and centripetal is towards the center. Okay, when the body is in the track, okay, when the body is in a track with uniform motion, then this centripetal force and centrifugal force are equal. Okay, the centripetal force and centrifugal force, both centripetal and centrifugal force both are equal when the body is in a circular track. Okay, with uniform velocity. So these forces are, magnitude of these 2 forces are same, just opposite in direction. Okay, when the body is in a circular track with uniform velocity, only that time these 2 forces are balanced or equal. So first thing I will discuss about the centrifugal force. Okay, centrifugal force. Okay, so I'm going to give an example first. Suppose you have traveled in bus. Okay, when you are traveling in a bus, what happens if the bus take a sharp turn? Okay, if the bus take a sharp turn in a circle, suppose you are traveling in a bus, and what happens, the bus take a sharp turn, then what happens, your body feels a push. Okay, your body feels a push away from the, or your body feels a push in the outward direction. Okay, suppose this is you are sitting in a bus. Okay, and what happens, there is a circular, there is a sharp turn. Okay, you are traveling in a bus, there is a sharp turn in the road. Okay, when the bus takes the turn, okay, with certain velocity, suppose the bus is taking turn with high velocity or high speed, then what happens, you inside the bus will feel a force outward. Okay, will feel a push or force towards the away from the center or away from the road. Okay, you will feel a force. actually the bus also experience this force. Okay, you along with the bus feels a force away from the road. Okay, so this is called this is due to centrifugal force. And what is the origin of the centrifugal force? Okay, it's nothing but the inertia. Okay, inertia. The origin of the centrifugal force is nothing but inertia. As I have discussed that when a body is moving in certain direction, okay, then what happens? There is a inertia. Inertia is formed in the body. Okay, inertia means it's unable to change the state. Okay, so when you are you're sitting inside a bus, what happens? You are traveling in a straight road. Okay, suppose you are traveling in a straight road, your body, then what happens? Your body gets an inertia to or your body or the bus get an inertia to go in a straight path. Okay, you have an inertia to go in a straight path along in the same direction. So what happens if it take turns? Okay, so if the bus take turns, the bus moves, but your body have the inertia to go in a straight direction. Okay, in a straight line. So this is why you feel a push. Okay, you feel a push outward or push away from the road. So this is the origin of the centrifugal force. Okay, so application of centrifugal force is very broad in experimental condition. Okay, because during application is what in experiment. Okay, in experiment what happens in some experiment, when you perform experiments for material science, what happens? You get a solution. Okay, you get a solution where solvent plus solute. Okay, you get a solution of where solvent and solute is present. Okay, so if you separate this solute, okay, from the solvent, okay, you have a solution, there is a solvent and a solute and solvent. Okay, suppose you want to separate the solute from the solvent, so what we do, we centrifuge this. Okay, centrifuge this means there is an arrangement where you put this in a test tube. Okay, and we rotate it with high RPM. Okay, suppose we can rotate it into 1000, 5000, 6000 RPM. Okay, 5000 RPM. Okay, 5000 rotation per minute. Okay, we rotate this in this high RPM. Okay, so what happens after centrifuging it to 5 to 10 minutes? What happens if we see the sample after this centrifugation? What happens? The solvent stays. After that, what happens? The solvent falls in the bottom of the test tube. Okay, and upper part become and solute and the solute stays, or it falls at the bottom of the solvent, and upper part, this part is solvent. Okay, so this is how we separate the solvent and solute from a solution. Okay, so this is the application of the centrifugal force. Okay, why this separate? Why this gets separated? Because the solute gets, or what, it is some particles. Okay, small particles with some mass. Okay, when you rotate or centrifuge it with a high speed, what happens? It gets a force to flew away from this test tube, and what happens as a result? It falls on the bottom of the test tube, and this is how the solvent and the solute get separated. So this one is one application of centrifugal force. Okay, this is very essential in experimental physics or experimental any work where synthesis of some material is done. Okay, so see, this is the all about the centrifugal force. Okay, so see, when it was now going to the earlier example, suppose this car or bus is moving in a circular track. Okay, this is the circular track. So what happens, this car gets a tendency to flip away or move away from the center, or it get a push or force, you can say, to move away from the center due to centrifugal force. Okay, but this does not happen up to certain velocity. This car or bus can move in a circular track, okay, without flipping away. So this is because of the so what is the cause, what is the reason of this? Because of the force which is acted towards the center. Okay, due to centrifugal force, this car or bus has a tendency, or it get a push to flip away from the circular track, okay, away from the center. But this does not happen at normal speed. Okay, to certain speed this does not happen. Why this does not happen? Because it feels or it experiences force towards the center. Okay, and this force is, okay, this towards this the force towards the center, this is called centripetal force. Centripetal. Okay, the force towards the center, okay, this is called centripetal force. Okay, it may rise due to different cause. Okay, suppose I'm taking an example. There is a piece of stone, you tie up the piece of stone with a string. Okay, you have tied a piece of stone with a string, and what you do, you rotate the string along with the stone in a circular path. Okay, you rotate this stone along with by grabbing the other end of the string, you rotate the stone in a circular path. Okay, like this. So what happens, the stone is rotating in this circular path, okay, because of the tension. Okay, because of centripetal force. Okay, because of centripetal force. Centripetal force towards the center. And what is the cause of the centripetal force? And from where it experiencing the centripetal force, it is because of the tension. Okay, this stone is experiencing this centripetal force because of the tension in the string. Okay, so in this case, the centripetal force Fc is equal to how much? It is the tension formed in the string. Okay, so in this case, first case, the centripetal force rises because of the tension in the string, okay, or the rope. Similarly, in a solar system, suppose the sun and Earth is moving around the sun in a fixed orbit. Okay, this is planet or Earth. So it also experiences centripetal force. Okay, and this is because of the gravitational force. This is because of the gravitational force or pull. This is because of the gravitational force between sun and the earth. Okay, this is the cause of centripetal force in this system. Okay, so earlier example, the cause of centripetal force was tension in the string or rope, and in this case, like our example of solar system, the centripetal force is due to the gravitational force of attraction between the sun and our earth. Similarly, another example, suppose there is a car. Okay, car, these are two wheels, and then this is the frame of the car. It's moving in a circular track. Okay, it's moving in a circular track of radius r. This is r. Okay, the car is moving in a circular track of radius r. So it can move in a circular track because a force towards the center is acting on the body of the car. Okay, a centripetal force is acting on this car. Okay, that is why it can move in a circular track. So what is the cause of the centripetal force? This is because of the friction. Okay, Fr. Okay, in this case the cause of the centripetal force is the frictional force between the wheel, frictional force between the wheel and the road. Okay, so last example was for tension and gravitational pull. Okay, this example is that a car is moving in a circular track and we have to find out what is the cause of this centripetal force. Okay, so in this case the car can move in a circular track because of the friction. Okay, see, if a body is moving in a circular track in uniform motion or circular motion, a body in circular motion, then there must be a centripetal force, and these are the different cause of centripetal force. Okay, so in this case the centripetal force is exerted by the friction. Okay, friction between the wheel and the road. Okay, so see, the car is taking turn like this. Okay, in this circular track the car is taking a sharp turn, so it gets a tendency to flip away from the road. Okay, but due to the friction between the road surface and this wheel of the car is because of this frictional force, the car can move in this circular track. Okay, the car can move forward in circular track because of the friction between the wheel and the road. Okay, so this is the cause of this is the cause of centripetal force in this system, or in this system. So now when you call centripetal, so how we represent centripetal force? We have give an example. Okay, we have in dimensional analysis we derive centripetal force. Okay, from dimensional analysis, centripetal force is how we represent this mp square by r. Okay, so when there is a force, there must be acceleration. Okay, so what is the centripetal acceleration? AC equal to v square by r. Okay, so AC it acts towards the center, of circular path. Okay, the centripetal force is mv square by AC centripetal acceleration. And what is the direction of centripetal acceleration? The direction is towards the center of the circular path. Okay, so how we derive AC equal to v square by r. So suppose there is a body. So now we derive AC equal to v square. So how the AC equal to v square by r term comes? Okay, so we see how we can write AC equal to v square by r. How this term comes? Okay, suppose a body of mass m is moving in a circular path of radius r. Okay, this is r. And see, in this point what happens? The direction of velocity will be this way, v. Okay, suppose we are taking another point, this. Okay, this is very near actually to r. Suppose the angle of separation between two points is delta theta. Okay, this is angle of separation. And at this point, what will be the direction of velocity? It will be this way. Suppose this is v plus delta v. Okay, so and radius is how this r. Okay, so see at this point, at point A velocity is v, okay, and at this point B, v plus delta v. So if we write down the velocity vectors, so this is in this direction v, okay, at point A, and this is in this direction, okay. So this is v and this is v plus delta v vector. So if we take the resultant, okay, we're taking this, so it is how much? It will be v plus delta v minus v, okay. How much this be? O A B. So A B will be how much? V plus delta v. This is the resultant. This minus this. So how much it will be? It will be delta v. So A B will be delta v. Okay. And this is no, we know it is delta theta. So how we write delta theta is how much? Like we have done in the parallax method. Delta theta equal to del v by this radius, or radius of, or the one side of the triangle, this is v, okay, delta v by v, okay. Actually delta v plus delta v and v both are nearly equal, okay. Delta v is very small actually, so you can write any of them, okay, delta v plus v or v. I'm writing here, we are writing v, so delta v will be how much? Delta theta into v. I am writing only magnitude. So see, delta theta will be how much? Suppose this mass time is moving with a angular velocity omega. So delta theta will be how much? Omega into delta t. Okay. This is like s is equal to 50 type things. Okay. S is the distance covered, linear distance covered by object, T is the velocity of the object, and T is time. This is the angle subtended by the mass m, this is the angular velocity, and this is time. Both are same. Yeah, we can find it is analogous. Okay, this is angular case, this is linear case. Okay, so if we put, it will be omega delta t, or v, we know that v is how much? Omega into r. Angular velocity into radius is the linear velocity, okay, omega into r. So after that, what we get? If we t, which will divide both sides by t, delta v by delta t, how much it will be? Omega square r. Okay, so what we get finally? Delta v by delta t is equal to omega square r. Omega square r, or we can write delta v by delta t is how much? Rate of change of velocity is acceleration, so omega square r. Okay, or we know that v is equal to omega r. Okay, or omega is equal to v by r, or omega square will be v square by r square. So if you put this in this expression, v square r square into r, or it will be v square by r. Okay, so see, this is how we derive the centripetal acceleration, which is v square by r. Okay, so this is the centripetal acceleration, okay, which is equal to v square by r. This magnitude of centripetal acceleration is v square by r, and its direction is towards the center. Okay, so this is how we derive centripetal acceleration. Okay, since in circular motion the centripetal force is the most used term is centripetal force. Okay, that's why we should know about the centripetal acceleration and centripetal force. Okay, that's why I derive this. So this is how we derive centripetal acceleration. From there we get centripetal force is equal to m into s, or m v square by r, like derived in the dimensional analysis. Okay, this. Now next thing is, see, in this chapter we have to in this chapter there's one example. Okay, example of this circular motion or the centripetal force, essence of the centripetal force. Okay, we have to discuss. This is the banking of road. Okay, in this chapter we have to discuss about the banking of roads. Okay, circular roads. See, if we see a circular track, okay, if we see, you can see a racing track or other, if we see a circular track, a circular road, okay, what happens? These circular roads are not plane surface. Okay, this is not plane. Okay, this is not a plane surface. What people do? What people do? They to make the circular track like this. Okay, with some inclination. Okay, so this is the banking of roads. Okay, so if we see a circular track, this the track, if we see a circular track, these surface of the circular track are not planar. Okay, these are not planar. Okay, it is not parallel to the horizontal. It is not parallel to horizontal. They are not parallel to horizontal. In case what they do, they tilt the road. Okay, they tilt the road with some angle. Suppose this is a circular and I am taking a cross section. Okay, suppose this is circular, I am taking this cross section. Okay, so what they do, they tilt the road at certain angle. Okay, suppose this is the circular road. Okay, circular road, and if we take cross section, what they do, they tilt the road at certain angle. Okay, there is inclination. Okay, away from the center of the circular track. Okay, away from the center of the circular track, there is an inclination. There is always an inclination in circular roads or circular track. So this is called banking of roads. This is actually very essential. Okay, to keep a bus or car. Okay, to keep a bus or car stable in this circular path, the tilting of this road, okay, or banking of the roads is very essential. Okay, so we'll discuss this. We'll discuss this in this after this. Okay, so suppose banking of roads. Okay, first case we discuss that we have discussed two cases. Okay, of banking for banking of roads we discussed two cases. One case is car is moving in a plane surface. Car is moving in a circular path with plane surface. Okay, and second case is car is moving in a circular path with a bank road. Okay, circular with a bank road. Okay, with certain inclination theta at the horizontal. Okay, both the two cases we will discuss and we will verify mathematically why this is second case is more efficient or more useful. Okay, for safety purpose. Okay, so first case we'll discuss. Suppose a car is moving. This is a car. So this is a car. There are two wheels. Is moving a circular path. Okay, circular track. So what are the forces applied in this car? So first force is mg due to the acceleration due to gravity. So first force applied on this car or bus is weight of this body or car, which is mg. And second is normal reaction. Okay, normal reaction. And third force is frictional force. Okay, this is the frictional force towards the center. Okay, see, when a car is moving a circular track, three forces applied on the car. Okay, One is weight mg downwards, then normal force perpendicular to the surface of the plane, and third is frictional force. Okay, frictional force between this wheel and the road towards the frictional force between the wheel and the road, and the direction of frictional force is towards the center. Okay, so friction arises when it always opposes the force. Okay, friction always opposes the applied force. Okay, see, when the car takes a turn, what happens? It experiences a pushing force, okay, away from the center due to centrifugal force. Okay, and due to this the friction arises between the wheel and the surface of the road. Okay, due to this the friction appears in the direction towards the center. Okay, that is why this frictional force appears. Okay, to counter the centrifugal drag. So this is the three forces applied on the body experiences three forces. They are the circular drag, the body experiences three forces: weight of the body, normal direction, and the frictional force towards the center. So see, since the body is moving in forward direction, okay, there is no acceleration or movement of the body in upward or downward direction. So you can say n is equal to mg, that is the normal reaction or normal force is balanced by the weight mg. So this is equal. Okay, now see, the car is moving, the car can move in its track because of the any object can move in a circular track because of centripetal force Fc, and which is equal to mv square by r. Any object can move in a circular track with uniform velocity because of the centripetal force. Okay, and in this case this centripetal force is because of the frictional force between this wheel and the road. Okay, so we can say that Fc is equal to Fr. This is centripetal force equal to frictional force. So if we write Fc is mv square by r. Okay, and Fr is nothing but the µs into n is normal direction. I am writing µs because µs is the limiting, µs into n is the limiting static frictional force. Okay, the kinetic frictional force or the coefficient of kinetic frictional force or you can say kinetic frictional force is little bit less than the static frictional force. Okay, limiting static frictional force. So you can there is not much difference, very little difference. So we can write µs into n. Okay, v square by r is equal to limiting static frictional force. Okay, so here if we write mv square by r, so this is the limiting case. Okay, so µs into mg. Okay, now if we solve or if we further resolve this, and we get this get cancelled, then v square is equal to µs g into r. See, this is the limiting case. Okay, this is the maximum for this is the maximum frictional static frictional force or maximum frictional force can be, this is the maximum frictional force that can experience by the wheel and the road. Okay, this is the maximum frictional force which rises between the wheel and the surface of the track or road. So here we write velocity as v max. Okay, this is the maximum velocity with which the car can move in this circular track. Okay, so v max will be how much? Root over µs into g r. Okay, so in case of a circular track, okay, which is plane, which in case of a circular track of plane surface, okay, this is not bank actually. In case of a circular track which is plane surface circular track, the maximum velocity the car or the bus can acquire to take the turn is Vmax equal to root over mu s rg. Okay, if this velocity exceeds this Vmax, okay, greater than if the V is greater than Vmax, then what happens? If velocity is greater than Vmax, velocity car will be greater than Vmax during this turn, what will happen? The car will flip away. Okay, it will flip away from this circular track. Okay, it will flip away from the circular track. Okay, so this is the maximum velocity the car can give, or this is the maximum velocity the car can move while taking this turn, while taking this circular turn. Okay, so in case of plane road, okay, in case of plane road, in case of plane surface actually, plane surface, okay, in case of plane surface, the maximum velocity that a car can move while taking the turn is root over mu s into g into r. R is the radius of the circular track. Okay, R is the radius of the circular track. Mu s is the coefficient of static friction and g is the acceleration due to gravity. So this is the maximum value a car can move when taking a turn in circular track. But you can increase, but how to get Vmax equal to root over mu s into g r. Okay, so if the velocity of the car exceeds the maximum value Vmax, what happens? While taking turn in the circular track, what will happen? If velocity will increase, then velocity of the car increases, then V maximum, what happens? It will flip away from the track. Okay, so accident occurs. Okay, so that is why the banking of road is essential in case of circular road or circular track. Okay, that is why banking of road is essential, okay, for circular track or road. Okay, that is why banking of road is done. Okay, in the next example, okay, example 2, we'll discuss that when you bank the road at certain angle or tilt the road at certain angle, okay, in a circular track, then what happens? This maximum velocity, the Vmax will increase. Okay, range of Vmax will increase in case of a bank road. Okay, that means the car can take the turn. Okay, in the circular track, the car can take the turn with high velocity in case of a banked road. Okay, in case of banked road or tilted road, the car can take the circular turn with high velocity than in case of a plane road with plane surface. Okay, so this I will discuss in the next class. Okay, next class we will discuss about the velocity, the range of velocity, okay, or maximum velocity that a car can move in a circular track in case of a bank road. Okay, and we'll compare the two maximum velocities in case of plane surface or in case of bank surface. Okay, in case of plane road, in case of blank road, we'll compare the Vmaxes and we'll say why this is better or this is more efficient than this. Okay, so up to this I will discuss today. Thank you.